Welcome to Ask the Commissioners, your forum to address those issues concerning the residents of Jackson County. Now, it's time to ask the commissioners.
Good evening and welcome to Ask the Commissioners. A lot of good stuff to talk about tonight. The budgeting process has started. We'll find out what things feel like and look like early on in the process and really get a better understanding of how the budget gets put together. Also, we'll get a better understanding of what services the county provides, what services the state provides, and what are the shared services that both provide. We'll talk about that, and we'll also show you just how quickly the commissioners acted to get an outdated White City ordinance updated. All right, as always, our goal with this program is to better inform Jackson County citizens about what is happening inside their county government and to give you an opportunity to hear it straight from your county commissioners. So let's talk with those county commissioners. Guys, welcome to the new set, and welcome to
very nice.
The holidays. Happy holidays.
Thank you. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas.
Don Skundrick, John Rasher, C.W. Smith, thanks for joining us
Thank you very much.
All right, today you had a Board of Commissioners meeting in the morning, and frankly, in my opinion, a lot got accomplished. I just want to throw it out there to see if this was just another typical day in the life of a Jackson County Commissioner. But you accepted a grant for $124,000 to enhance services at libraries, ensured the people of Rogue River would have excellent ambulance services until 2014, awarded the first grant, which is part of the Economic Action Initiative and will create family wage jobs in Jackson County, authorized the improvement of the meeting facilities at the Jackson County Expo, which will improve tourism, authorized the beginning of a $26.5 million Health and Human Services project for the new center there, which will in turn return to the county $32 million over the next 22 years, and through the process of law, upheld your charter that your requirement to appoint a county assessor.
Yeah.
I was busy.
Yeah.
Did we do all that today? Yeah. Was I there?
It's a busy morning.
You were leading the charge,
Oh, that's
Mr.
right.
Chair.
I was chair.
Yes.
You know, some meetings are busier than others. You certainly didn't take time off for the holidays in this one. What are your thoughts, you know, on that list that I just went through? Anything stand out or no?
Well, we'll start with Mr. Chair now. Oh, excuse me, Mr. Rasher. That's right.
Yeah.
You never get stuck. Let's start with John Rasher.
John, you're in the middle tonight.
Yeah, John, you never get a
Well,
chance.
thank you. I was excited about the contract for the new Health and Human Services building. You know, that $26.5 million. I asked the other day if that was the biggest contract the county had ever done, and it wasn't because the airport terminal and everything was bigger. But
$60 million.
But most of that was federal money. I mean, a lot of this was our money. I mean, the citizens' money here. So that was a big deal. We don't take those decisions lightly, you know. But there's a good return on that. So we stepped out and did it.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's a large amount of money. We might as well go right to the hardball and talk about the assessor issue and handling that as per our charter and per our OS statutes. So we did what we needed to do, had to do. We think that we made a good decision. We believe that the young man that we chose to be the interim assessor to fill the remainder of Mr. Ross's term, this 2012, is going to do a great job. And the population, the citizens are getting an opportunity to vote. And,
That's right.
And I'm not sure whether, I think he's going to run, but then we also think a couple other candidates will probably run at least. So the citizens will have their opportunity. But until then, this year, we move forward. We made a decision in spite of the priority set for us by the newspaper, and I'm proud that we acted.
Well, you know, and I want to say we really needed an assessor because we were fielding a lot of those questions. I had a fellow call me the day before yesterday, and he said, "I think that I can get some of my tax penalty waived, and I understand because we don't have an assessor that the commissioners can now make that decision." You know, and so he's thinking that we're the assessor, and we're not. You know,
that's right.
So this is really good, and it's a seamless transfer. You know, I mean, he knows all the employees, he knows all the programs that are in place, the new fella. So it'll be business as usual tomorrow.
You know, I think in relationship to my time as a commissioner, we have made some tremendous decisions that impact years and years of our future as livability issues for the county. And what strikes me is that I think that people have some degree, despite some of the letters and the editorials in the Mail Tribune, I think people have a relative confidence that we're getting the job done, because we really don't get a lot of citizens coming in and complaining. We get a few, but and we do look at their complaints. But the point is I think it's a very quiet but effective government. You know, when you look at, a wise man is never recognized in his own community, or whatever they say about that.
Prophet.
You know, we had the Oregonian write an editorial about Jackson County, about what an unbelievable job we had done in relationship to of turning the ship around and creating a situation where a government was not underwater. And it wasn't until that editorial appeared that our local hometown paper decided to do, quote unquote, a story and an editorial. Mm-hmm. And it always struck me as odd, because I was trying to get the hometown paper to do that, but they wouldn't do it. I don't understand that, but that's the dynamic. But the point is, the RPS process.
The only process in the state of Oregon.
The only county in the state to implement a 50-year plan for growth and anticipate. That's tremendously economically beneficial to all those folks that want to plan and try to get their futures planned. And if we are going to have development, we are going to have development, you know. So that was a big deal.
And the coordination plan is the only county in Oregon.
The coordination plan is another plan that we went to work on and all worked together to get it done. It's not perfect, but it's the only county in the state of Oregon that has a full-blown plan, and it's one that other counties are starting to look at and adopt as well, because it creates a partnership, a required partnership under the federal statutes.
Right, and help explain that a little bit, because I had that on our agenda to talk about. So the ordinance, when decisions are made in D.C. about the livability of Jackson County, that requires them to discuss or seek input?
Yeah, what it does is, and I don't mean to belabor this issue, because we all worked on this, but what it does is it could be a federal administrative rule on federal lands. It could be the Forest Service. It could be the Bureau of Land Management. It could be the Corps of Engineers. It could be the Bureau of Reclamation.
DEQ.
DEQ. Any number of federal agencies. There is a statute that requires them to at least coordinate the impacts to local communities, their economy, all of those issues. So that's a huge step that I think we've taken, and we know we're heading in the right direction, because a lot of folks are pretty confused at the federal level.
Well, especially when we talk about to coordinate those impacts. At least the way that the statute's written and the way our ordinance is written is that it requires the whatever federal agency, hopefully much before the train leaves the station, to make contact with Jackson County to say, this is an issue that we're looking at. These are proposals that we have out in front of us, they're options. We'd like to have your input into this. We recognize it's federal lands, but it's going to have an impact on Jackson County and its citizens some way or another. We'd like to sit down and discuss these. Maybe between the two or three of us that we can come with something that's going to work for everybody. Because, I mean, the federal government will have something that needs to get done, okay? We need to recognize that. But with that said, what we're hoping to get to, and what we think that this is going to move a long ways towards, is that area of cooperation where they sit down and we have an opportunity to look at it, discuss it, bring in maybe some other interested parties, and work out the best solution to get the problem or the goal met. At least then we've had some input. And that's huge, I think.
Yeah, it is huge.
Yeah, you would hope at some point that would happen in the process prior to having to have the ordinance, but you're ensuring that process by doing this.
We have a seat at the table now.
Yeah.
I just want to add one thing back to the RPS that Commissioner Smith brought up. We want to make sure that we don't forget to recognize the other 6 cities within the greater Bear Creek regional problem-solving area. Ashland, Talent, Phoenix, City of Medford, Central Point, Eagle Point, in conjunction with Jackson County. over all those years. I can't say enough good things. That's when governments actually, people get together and work out solutions. Yes, there are issues, and there were other people at the table, but as well, non-governmental, special interest groups. That's what even makes it even more. I still shake my head at that, at the work done there.
Yeah. Let's turn our attention to the Secure Rural Schools Act and the funding that is no longer there. There was hope that there was going to be a reauthorization, but that didn't happen. We've talked about it in the past. Jackson County can weather the storm because of the rainy day fund for a little while. It's really the counties around Jackson County certainly are devastated by this, yeah?
Absolutely, I think.
There's our timber.
No,
There's our
exactly,
timber.
yeah.
This is Mr. Timber.
I was looking at you when I asked that question.
The issue has been always longstanding, and the goal from the very beginning, from these public lands and rural schools, the PL 19623, whatever it was.
Public law.
Yeah, public law. It was to try to. It was a stopgap bridging effort to get the communities and the environmental groups together to determine and make sense and try to create some kind of reasonable natural resource industry. It has failed miserably. It has failed miserably. Not because industry didn't want to keep people working, not because the Forest Service and BLM didn't want to keep people. It's just the court system and the environmental groups absolutely, there are certain elements that absolutely do not want. They're absolutist about no creation of jobs or money or wealth off of public lands, period. Well, unfortunately, 51% of our lands are publicly owned, and they're huge natural resource oriented bases. So it failed miserably. So now we're at the bottom of that chasm, with no inference or creation of any kind of wealth. It's like we're surrounded by oil up to our neck. I think I've used this analogy before, and no way to do anything about it. So I think what will happen is, and there is Representative Fazio, Representative Schrader, and Representative Walden have a very good proposal. Now, whether or not it'll go, but it does talk about creating some degree of natural resource utilization right in the middle of one of the hugest reservoirs of natural resources. We know we have a market. We know we have jobs. We have tens of thousands of jobs that are simply waiting for the opportunity to provide the market. But the federal government, by its own instruments, cannot get out of the way to create those jobs. What do you suppose built all the schools here, built the basic fundamental infrastructure to all of our infrastructure in Southern Oregon? It was those natural resource jobs. And I'm not saying that should be completely reinstated, but a part of it, a part of it. So we're going back to Washington, D.C. We're going to be pushing on the bill, the DeFazio, Schrader, Walden bill, to try to do something about, create some sense of the natural resource industry that we know is here. It's here. There's no question about it. Then the other thing is, we're going to do everything to protect our interests. Well, there's PILT, payment in lieu of taxes, that come to counties. We've never taken a huge amount of PILT, but that's the opportunity to do that. Other counties do. Counties that are publicly owned counties from the federal government, and payment in lieu of taxes is the federal government gives the local government a certain amount of money. Well, we're going to hard charge for that. But in the interim, there's going to be an 18-month gap. And you've got counties like Curry, Josephine, Douglas, Klamath, all those neighbors of ours who don't have our reserves and who have no answers just yet.
Yeah.
So that's the question. How do we deal with it? John?
Well, thank you. Well,
I'm sorry, that's the issue.
It's unfortunate, Tom, but I think what's going to happen is a county is going to have to fail to get things moving forward, and I'm afraid it's probably going to be Curry County. You know, Curry County and Josephine both have these low tax rates of 58 cents a thousand, 59 cents a thousand. We have $2 a thousand, which is it's on the low end in the state, you know. But those counties there, I mean, you know, Curry County is, I believe, 82% federal ownership. And so if that logging shut down, they just have no income for their services. They could double or triple their tax rate, and they still, with the value they have in their county, they can't survive over there. And so I think it's going to, because there's always been a bailout of some sort,
Right.
some way or another over the years. There's always been some sort of last minute bailout, but I don't think it's going to happen this year.
Yeah, time to find a long-term
Yeah, we need a
solution to it.
long-term solution.
Something ancillary to that, there's been a couple articles, and especially if you read the Oregonian, and about if in fact a county should fail, what are the consequences? And does that mean that an adjoining county would have to absorb that county? What would you do about tax rates? And the Attorney General's been looking at all the options there. There's a legislative group taking a look and seeing what can be done. I want to speak for Jackson County. We're a home rule county, one of the 9 out of the 36 in the state of Oregon. Our governance is set by our charter, which by the state constitution says that the state then cannot change our governance. They couldn't say, for example, say Josephine gets in dire straits and they say, the state comes and says, well, okay, Jackson, you're in good shape. We want you to take in Josephine County. They can't do that. So now on the general law counties, the other 27 counties, that could be a possibility, but it can't happen in those 9 counties that have a home rule charter. So that's something good so people don't panic.
Yeah.
I'm not saying we wouldn't be nice to help our fellow folks, but it's not something that can be forced upon us.
Yeah. All right, Don, changing subjects, the budget process has started. I think a lot of people don't quite understand how the budget process works, or even the fact that it gets started this early, and really it starts with the county administrator putting together an outline and taking it from there, yeah?
Well, Dub talked about this a little bit earlier, talked about some of the work that have done the previous commissioners, and the one reason why Jackson County is in such good shape relatively to those around us, and that's to the hard work. But a lot of it is a process as well, and with John and I being new to the process, this is the first year that we'll be involved right from the get-go, but the administrator pulls together in December target numbers for the budget for each individual department based on an assumption of what the revenue is going to be for 2011 or 2012, 2013. It's based on history. That's the way you always have to budget. What happened in the past? What do you expect maybe to happen in the future? He then, we met in December, what was it, the 8th of December we met? The Budget Committee, which is made up of the 3 county commissioners and 3 lay volunteers that make up the Budget Committee. And the administrator lays out his goals, if you will, given on what he knows right now for targets, for budget targets for this upcoming budget. We discussed that. We spent a half a day discussing that, getting that information, getting that discussed. And then the administrator then takes, if there's nothing that looks glaring to the Budget Committee at that point, then the administrator then takes that back and starts hammering that out with each individual departments. This is X amount of money I think you're going to get coming in on revenue. I need to see your expenses. We work on a balanced budget, and he does, and they do the heavy lifting at that point. They pack the heavy water. They put all that together, and then we'll come back together then in March and then actually start the process where the Budget Committee gets back together. We'll review those departments and under the leadership of our administrator until we get into April, May, and then we start actually having public meetings, and we'll discuss it at that point. But it's an involved process, but it works a lot better at the tail end.
Yeah.
Because of all the hard work that's been at the front end.
That's right.
Yeah, like most things. And there's the Budget Committee made up of you 3 and then 3 volunteers.
Correct.
Yeah.
And
Correct.
the county administrator, even
Yeah,
though he's
right.
not a member of the committee, he's an integral part of that
Right.
committee.
Certainly. Very good. All right. Well, thank you for that. All right. Moving on, and the White City Urban Renewal Project, certainly it was a huge success for Jackson County. You know, it began back in 1991, and the projects were completed on budget and 2 years ahead of schedule. And more importantly, White City is now a much better place to live. Earlier this month, there was a closing ceremony to honor those that worked so very hard and so tirelessly to make sure it happened. Take a look.
When we first moved here, people warned us away from White City.
We had an unstable community with some problems.
I had the big drainage ditch behind my house that kids couldn't walk down, that they played in, but they shouldn't have been.
It seemed like every road we drove down, I'd tell people you'd lose the school buses in the potholes.
In some neighborhoods, it wasn't safe for the kids to walk to school.
A lot of the water system, a lot of the sewer system had been here since World War II.
First of all, I wanted to thank you all for coming. My name is John McCaleb. Currently the manager for Urban Renewal. I wanted to thank a few people for our efforts here at the park. One would be the Urban Renewal Committee for their continued support and lots of ideas and things to help with the park creation. I'd like to thank the White City Community Improvement Association, who agreed to do the maintenance and cleaning and upkeep on the property after we finished. Without them, this playground wouldn't be here. I'd like to thank Hardy Engineering for all of their work and efforts. Their whole team has just been great. David Monin of Terra Science for helping us get the permitting and everything to mitigate the wetlands so that we could make this a usable park and playground. H2 Construction, they did a beautiful job, and this is going to be something that the residents and the kids can enjoy for years. And Playcraft, that's supplied the equipment and helped with the design and everything, and they're out of Grants Pass. They were just really wonderful. Thank you. Nobody's gonna help,
Near
huh?
the end, near the end.
Oh, at the end? Okay. Thanks, guys.
Congratulations.
Good job.
The projects, I'm not going to go into great detail about the number or the detail of exactly who was helped and the benefit that was created, but we did things from paving to pollution control to better the air quality in White City, not only for people who live here, but for people who come to White City. We did the lighting district, and Fire District 3 helped Fire District 3 do their training center so that they were more able to help serve the industrial clients, their industrial clients in White City. In terms of the residential development that you see that Joy and Cheryl talked about, Jackson County was instrumental in that in two ways, both by basically going through a process of rezoning White City, the entire city, to create the ability to develop in an urban way like you see now, as opposed to what was before, which was about 1 acre to 5 acre acreage development, to strategically investing in roads so that the private sector development community would come in and build stick-built housing, the stick-built housing that you see in White City. Urban renewal is such a wonderful tool to make communities better, and in this community it certainly did that. Purposefully making strategic investments to help the people who live here and to help businesses stay here and grow and actually recruit new businesses that both help the people that lived here and helped all of Jackson County.
I just want to tell you why we did this, why the Urban Renewal District got started. I said, I found out that sometimes there are many of our children out in White City that cannot walk safely to school. Many of them have problems in their families. It's low, it's unemployment, it's, you know, crisis situations for families out in White City. So the whole goal was to make sure our children are safe and make sure they get to school and have a good education. See, I still get emotional about it. So that's why we started this. So our children in this community could be safe.
When they formed White City Improvement and brought in the urban renewal, just in front of our house, the street was fixed, the storm drains, the sewer and water lines, sidewalks and gutters, and our overhead power was put in underground. It just made a big difference in the beauty.
We just built it step by step with strong community support and a lot of sweat and tears over the years. Our Pride Days, our cleanup days, all the things that this community has done over the last 20 years to improve itself with the help of residents and outside people too. It couldn't have happened without people that didn't live outside of White City.
This is the end of a very good project out here. I think that this whole community has been a work in progress. I'm really amazed at the number of people over the years before I got started working with it. You know, I was learning about all the things the other people have tried to do over the years out here, and seeing that finally come to this point, you know, is a real good acknowledgement of what those people led up to. And I don't think we're done by any means. I think we've got a lot further to go. I think incorporation, personally, I'd like to see if that was to happen, that we look at maybe the mistakes that other cities make and avoid those.
We all need to be thankful for what we have, and every resident in White City should show their appreciation for all the improvements made through urban renewal by helping to maintain them, by picking up litter, removing graffiti, and working together to make White City a beautiful place to live, work, and play.
This city, at some point, people are going to realize this is the city of the future. What you have here, you have the jobs here, you have the service facilities, you have commercial, and you have your own library, housing. Everything is in such close proximity, you can walk to any of it. Okay? That's the city of the future, not to have to rely on transportation, but to have everything very closely accessible.
Just wanted to say, White City, I agree. Proud past, promising future.
Impressive stuff, certainly. John, you have business out there. You certainly are very familiar with seeing the changes in White City over the years, yeah?
I did. In fact, I got up and spoke there a little while, and I made a comment that I used to patronize the 909, and some people knew what the 909 was.
I went on a couple of calls there when I was there.
Yes, now it's a Chinese food restaurant. I had a Burger King restaurant there for years. And something that I don't know, probably very few of the public knows, that I talked with the county clerk just a couple days ago, and they've been gathering signatures to put the incorporation of White City on the ballot, and they verified all the signatures, and they had enough, and so they can now put that on the ballot for an upcoming election here.
Nice.
So,
Yeah.
so the big hurdle's over.
Yeah, and CW, you certainly have seen the changes through the years out there.
You know, I was sheriff in 1983 to 1995, and a lot of our calls for service, matter of fact, a majority of our calls for service were in the White City area. And as things started improving, that started going down and down and down to the point where today it's not nearly what it was, and it's not nearly, there was a lot of blight, there was a lot of poverty, there was a lot of attitudinal issues in the community that didn't exist, and so that changed, and it changed dramatically. And so you have a community that's vibrant, that's working hard to get it done right, and so it's really been a benefit. It's been a benefit to all the residents of Jackson County, because in essence, all of the residents of Jackson County at one point were subsidizing what was going on for public safety for that community. And so when we invested those dollars in urban renewal, we changed that paradigm immensely. And it's been a benefit. And of course, the benefit to the local communities as an industrial site is good for us and the future as well. And that's for all of Jackson County as well.
Yeah. And a good group of folks having done those projects a couple years ahead of schedule on budget. And so terrific.
Just want to add quick thing. I think we need to pay, congratulate our sheriff and the sheriff's department. They put a substation out there. And Dub, I don't know if you were part of that back
yes, it was.
then.
Yeah,
okay. But that's been very successful out there. As Dub mentioned, that there was obviously some crime issues there. That's gone down, but what has really impressed me, they have a community service officer out there as well. As a patrol officer, he's involved in the school out there. I've been to a couple of functions they've done, and so this isn't just some cop sitting in a cop car on a corner. This is somebody that's got out and got involved in the community, got involved in the school, and that's made a tremendous amount of difference. So hats off to the sheriff and his staff for facilitating that.
Yeah, certainly an example of county-provided services, and that's going to provide a segue into what does the county provide in terms of services? What does the state provide in terms of services? I think enough people in our community don't know, that sort of thing.
Don's got the chart.
Yeah, we've got a chart that it's going to just answer all the questions and figure it out. And for those people that are not colorblind, I think they'll get a pretty good grip
I think you're going to show this up here, right?
Yeah, pop it up. So
okay.
when you've got health and human services and public safety and recreation.
Well, let me explain the color code there first. At the top of the chart, you'll see green. Those are the services that are provided by the state. The state pays for it, they man it, that's what they do. They are responsible for that. The bottom of that chart, the blue, are those responsibilities that the county is charged to do. This is what comes out of, much of it comes out of general funds, or we made enterprises out of them, like the parks, et cetera. But that's something that the county and the citizens of Jackson County are responsible to do by statute. It includes county jail, et cetera, solid waste management, surveying, on and on. We can go through those individually. It's the big part in the middle that I want you to pay attention to, the red. That's what's called shared services. And you hear that, I've started hearing that a lot when I started getting into the job, and Commissioner Rasher and I went to the Association of Oregon Colleges, or Oregon Counties College, Commissioner College, and I heard this, shared services. Well, then it was explained to us, and those in the red are those services that the state funds, but the county provides a service, okay? Because the county, by statute, it's really the boots on the ground for state government in each one of these counties. But all of those in the red, if you put that back on, if you would please put those on again, thank you. For example, health and human services, and the people at home may not be able to read all of those, but that's senior services, alcohol and drug treatment prevention, children and family, disabled services, mental health services, Oregon Health Plan, veteran services, public health services, environmental health, housing services, medical examiner, etc. Okay, that's all under HHS's. That's what the state funds us. We have to provide the services. And then we could move over to the other ones. There's public safety. I think Dub talked about that. There's the courts, et cetera. And I won't go into all of that. The point I want to make is with the shrinking state revenues and what the legislature is doing, understandably, because the Constitution of Oregon requires a balanced budget. They're not like the federal government where they can go into deficit. Okay, so to do that, when revenues drop, they have to cut expenses. And so there are many ways they can do this, but many of them is where they're telling counties, okay, gee, it'd be great if you guys could do this, but I'm sorry, we haven't got the money. So would you like to do that for us? That's simply put, of course. But that's what's happening, and we're having to make decisions here because when we close, for example, let's take veteran services. So say we close our veteran services offices, and who's going to get the letters to the editor, the editorials in the newspaper? Who's going to get that? It's going to be Jackson County and county government. But it's really not our responsibility. We like doing it, but we have to have the funds to do it. We can't afford that out of general funds. So that's an example, and that's what I was hoping people could see by looking at that chart, to see that huge amount of services that really are provided by state funding that we provide the boots on the ground for. And that's my explanation, CW, John.
Good explanation.
Yeah, I think that's, and there are some programs that we have really sort of taken particular interest and exception to, and one is the Veterans Program. We have a lot of young veterans coming back from these wars and so forth that are in need of services, and we make a lot of referrals, and we do have some degree of general fund support for the program. But predominantly, those are state programs that are funded by the state that we man and operate by contract with the state. So you can see the vast majority of services that are being provided predominantly by county staff and officials.
What can you do when that funding goes away? And you mentioned it, you can't necessarily pull it from the general fund.
Do you want to speak to that?
Oh, go ahead.
Well, the previous boards and budget committees had made a policy. Now, one needs to understand succeeding boards and budget committees are not beholden to the previous one once you get outside of that budget year, that budget cycle. However, in principle, they have said that we are not going to backfill. If the state, for example, pulls the funding from one of these areas in red, the county's not going to automatically backfill and keep that service going out of general fund dollars. Now, we have stepped up in public health with providing a nurse. We felt that came with the H1N1 issue. And so we were able to do that. As Dub has mentioned, with veteran services, there's a couple of other ones here that we've done. Juvenile services, we've done a little bit there. But our citizens need to understand we can't afford to do everything that's in the red here. It can't be done.
Yeah.
So that's a long answer to your question. The short answer to the question is we just have shut down the services.
Which has
But
a
you need to know,
devastating impact.
we have prioritized.
Yeah.
Unlike Congress, unlike the Senate, we have prioritized. We don't go beyond our means. We don't spend money we don't have.
Yeah.
But with that said, there are going to be some substantive cuts if there isn't some degree of financial relief in some form or another.
All right.
Well, in an issue we see, if we cut back something like mental health because we can't afford it, now we see those people show up in the jail system.
We're
paying for it anyway.
That's exactly right. That's
One way or
exactly
the
those
other.
unintended consequences.
Good explanation. I had no idea prior to this conversation just how impacting it was from a state funding standpoint and what shared services
Well, many
really
people
meant.
feel because they go to like our health HHS center there on East Main, which we hope soon to be moving into up on 8th Street. They well, that's the county does that. Well, yes, we do. Again, we're the boots on the ground, but we're dependent upon that money that's given by the state. That's the way it's set up in the Constitution. I mean, that's the way it's set up. So, and that's the only way we could ever afford to do those kinds of things. And the state couldn't do it from Salem. Well, we won't get into that. That's a whole different,
All right.
different story.
Well, certainly the decisions do have to be made, and the commissioners are not chicken to act quickly when needed. And this next story will help out.
That's a feather in your cap. Are we going to?
Sometimes the best of intentions can create the biggest messes. We plucked this from the headlines. You could not have chickens in White City. Some time ago, there was a concern that without some control, the rural lifestyle would come to roost right in the middle of town. What they did not anticipate is that in the Great Recession of 2011, people would begin growing more of their own food and, yes, have a few hens around for a fresh batch of scrambled eggs for breakfast. Jackson County Commissioners realized quickly if they waited for the rooster to crow, it would be too late and things could get hotter than a henhouse, and White City's Humpty Dumpty could have a great fall. Although we jest at the silliness that was the ban on chickens in White City, your Jackson County Commissioners quickly looked at the current ordinance, had public hearings, and looked at thoughtful changes needed.
In 2004, the county's land development ordinance was amended, and it included a chapter that was specifically dedicated to White City. At that time, White City was basically upzoned. So prior to that, White City, their lots range from an acre to 5 acres to 10 acres. There was a core of development, kind of the old development in White City that was less than an acre, but most of the properties were an acre or more. And White City was designated for urbanization, and that urbanization looked like now between 1 unit per acre and 30 units per acre. So White City was, like I said, upzoned significantly from what it was. When our land development ordinance was moved through the public process, it went to the White City Planning Commission, and the White City Planning Commission was made up of citizens of White City who looked at that ordinance and determined that it was best to not allow non-intensive agriculture in White City. I think at that time, the prevailing thought, and keep in mind this is some time ago, that there would be conflicts with large farm animals and kind of this burgeoning development of White City. And I think they wanted to avoid that. So they put a provision in the county's land development ordinance which precluded non-intensive or intensive agriculture in White City and really precluded farm animals in White City. Well, fast forward to 2011, and there are lots of people who want to do urban agriculture, who are looking to help themselves and their families feed themselves, and there's this desire, I think, for that urban agriculture. So what we did was staff went out and looked at, surveyed all of the cities in Jackson County to see what kind of farm animals, if any, cities within Jackson County allow. And what we found is that most cities don't allow large farm animals. Cities like Medford and Central Point, Phoenix, Eagle Point allows chickens in some areas, but most cities do allow chickens, but they don't allow large farm animals. So in a nutshell, what this ordinance, these recommended changes do is currently, like I said, none of these animals are permitted in White City. What this does is allow alpaca, sheep, or goats, and miniature horses, 3 per acre, poultry, 20 per acre, but no roosters, fur-bearing animals, 50 per acre, so that includes rabbits or mink or other fur-bearing animals, and allowing those sort of 3 sections in White City.
I just would like to say I love the way you guys have this written now. I think that moving forward with it is going to be an awesome opportunity for other families to be more self-sufficient and be able to provide, especially in these hard economic times that we're going through. They're neat to watch. They're great. They teach my children, self-responsibility. They, and again, they provide for my family, my neighbors. None of my neighbors would complain. They get free eggs. So
you bought off your neighbors.
I did, absolutely. I have 5, and I live on a quarter of an acre.
And meets the family needs, those 5?
It exceeds my family needs,
Yeah,
which
isn't that
is
something?
nice
Yeah.
because then I've got a neighbor beside me who has 4 kids and a neighbor behind me who has 3. It's been 6-7 months since they've had to purchase eggs. So,
Yeah.
and,
Very good.
holidays and all that good stuff, it's nice to have. They taste so much better.
I mean, they eat bugs. They take care of pests. We don't have to buy pesticide because of them. Egg laying, feeding the family, and they eat. If you never want fleas, on your dogs or your cats, get chickens. Not kidding.
And the one thing that I get excited about is when my grandkids come out and they have, each one of them have a chicken by it, and they call it by name and they hold it and they pet it, and they're getting into 4-H, and you will never see a child that's in 4-H go out on the street and cause trouble.
Very few.
And they feed my children, they feed my children's children. You know, they're the American way.
All right. Anybody else wishing to speak, pro or con? Anybody opposed?
Is there anyone speaking against the change in the ordinance?
All right.
Probably be tarred and feathered.
Last call.
No pun intended.
Great pun.
That was a good one.
Now you can have just the right amount of hens in your backyard. Some say that government does not listen or moves way too slow, but not in Jackson County. Here we are not chicken to make a stand.
You know, I'm so glad we put that whole issue to roost.
See, and so you put the final end to every chicken pun or plucked and that sort of thing.
Right, we did.
There you go. You know, but we made light of that situation. But you know, to point out,
it was serious.
You moved quickly. You listened to what was said, and you made the necessary change.
Yeah. It was something we could do.
Yeah. Took care of it in a hurry.
All right, very good. So more of that to come in the future, I'm sure, of moving quickly and listening and that sort of thing. All right, John, I want to ask you this question or throw something at you. When people of Jackson County interact with some county offices or departments, it can be a little intimidating from the standpoint of the uncertainty, not sure what's going on. For instance, someone wants to get something approved through the planning department and they get told no for and don't necessarily get an explanation, don't know which way to go. Could be some ambiguity in there. And you're looking to alleviate some of that ambiguity, making some changes to where if a no is put out there, maybe it's more of an approach of no, but within the law, let's look at your options and see if we can help. Is that the case?
Well, that's correct, and a lot of this has to do with Kelly Madding, who's got a lot of FaceTime this evening.
Yeah, she has. Yeah,
here, but that's Kelly.
She's our Kelly Ripa.
Yeah, that's Kelly, as our development director, does an excellent job. And the incident came up not too long ago as a fellow wanted to come into the valley here and build a big house. I mean, a 55, 60,000 square foot house, but he was only allowed to have one kitchen. And he was going to bring a lot of family members into that. And that was his response. And so by doing a little research, we found out that you can have more than one kitchen in a house. The reason that rule was in place, and it was a suggestion, is to prevent people from building a house and turning it into an apartment house or a duplex or something like that. So to get around that, all you have to do is put in there, you can have 2 or 3 kitchens, but you can't rent, barter, or exchange any of the house, you know, so you couldn't have your field hands working in there. And so Kelly told me that from what they're going to do now is try to give people their options when they come in. In the past, what they would do is say, no, it's only approved to have one kitchen. But now they will say, you know, you can have more than one kitchen, but here's something else we have to do to make that work. You know, we have to put a restriction on it. So anyway, she said that she's meeting with staff and explaining all that to them, and so I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
There's a darker side of that, probably wrong choice, but we have to be very careful at the county level, and John does a marvelous job on the liaison of that. In fact, the chicken issue, although no, it was another one, was a noise issue and such. He did great job. But the point being is we have to be very careful about offering advice. We can state some options, but we have to be very careful about offering advice, because then, in fact, if someone says, well, okay, I think I can do that, so he goes off or she goes off and does that, and then LUBA steps in, LCDC, something else happens, and then all of a sudden we're the bad guys because we suggested that that person could do this. So we have to be very careful. We have to lay down the ordinances or any state land use laws that are there and give them their options. But and sometimes that comes off wrong to that person because they say, well, can't you be a little more helpful with me on that? And they really can't. Mm-hmm. We have to be very careful. So I just want to make sure I say that. But customer service, they think about it a lot.
Yeah.
And I've done a great job.
In the vast majority, matter of fact, I think it's close to over 90% of the permits are approved as they come in and they work through those. So it's the small minority that are disapproved. But once again, we're tied by the state statutes, and that makes it difficult. It's an onerous process. I have to admit, we all agree to that. If we could figure out a better and quicker way to get around the state, we would. But I have to tell certain people, I says, you know, somebody came into me the other day, and he comes in quite frequently, and he says, well, I don't like having to go and ask for the government for permission to put in a sewer system or this. And I says, well, don't then. Well, don't do it. Don't go get a permit. And he looked at me and says, well, I won't get a loan if I don't have it approved by standards. I says, okay, then why do you suppose that happens? Why do you suppose it happens? It's protecting the interests of people. If you want money to help you build a nice home, the home has to meet certain standards. You can't ask the bank. So this is a relationship with the financial institutions. It's a relationship with public safety. So that's why a lot of these rules come about. And they don't come about because you and I all thought of these rules. They come about because citizens walk into the state legislature and ask their legislators to enact some kind of a law for the betterment or protection of a community. There's a certain community here in Southern Oregon, everywhere, that they can't stand government. Well, we are government. The citizens are government. And that's where those laws come from, whether you like it or not, and get in and change it at where it starts, in the citizens' body, the legislature. That's how it all starts.
Yeah.
And there seems to be this devoid view that somehow government is doing all of this. Well, somebody, a citizen, came in and asked for this at some point.
Yeah.
So that's the one thing. But most of the permits are approved.
Yeah. And I'm glad when I built my 50,000 square foot home that I elected just to have one kitchen and
well, there's
and
going
a
to be
giant
more.
rec room.
I'd love to go cook in that kitchen. I tell you, there's a big old family. If they like my food,
All right. Hey, as we mentioned earlier in the program, the first award grant was awarded today in the Economic Action Initiative in Jackson County, and it will provide family wage jobs here in Jackson County. And let's take a closer look at what happened.
In a continued commitment toward local economic recovery, the Jackson County Board of Commissioners has awarded a $26,000 grant to Medford-based Core Business Services that will help employ 13 people with wages above the Jackson County average.
On behalf of SOREDI, I do the vetting of the applications as they are forwarded to us. We look at them very seriously, much the same as if we had a loan application in front of us. And when it was all said and done, Core Business Services, through Scott Anderson's leadership, made application. We had discussions, Danny and Harvey as well. And this is a very viable company, prepared to double itself in size. And I thank you as a citizen, as well as somebody working with you in collaboration, that the county has stepped up and made this gesture to support business expansion within this county. Core Business Services is a high-tech company, and they typically pay good wages, and that's the kind of companies we wish to have in our community.
The grant to the Information Technology Management Services Company is part of Jackson County's Innovative Economic Action Initiative, or EAI, program. It will allow 13 families to have a member back to work at a great paying job.
Just wanted to let you know how much we appreciate the county's commitment to helping to create jobs. We're excited about the continued growth of our company and being able to grow like that in Medford, where we want to be forever. So it's, I think, a great program. We appreciate the commitment to to small business in the region, and appreciate your consideration of us.
All right. Mr. Skundrich.
Scott, you got a moment or two. Tell us a little bit about core businesses. You got a real short segment here for a little advertisement, and so tell us just a little bit.
You bet. So Core Business Services is essentially becomes a company's IT department. So we started 6 years ago. We engage with companies maybe with 5 computers up to companies with 500 computers and assist them in anything related to technology. So rather than hire maybe an internal IT manager, we engage with companies, become their IT department, provide all of their remote and on-site support for them, and then manage their infrastructure and essentially become their CIO. So work with companies typically to save them money because they don't have to hire a single IT person internally, and we can lend kind of our expertise of currently 13 and growing people to their organization.
And these jobs are all here local?
All these jobs are here locally, correct.
Jackson County set aside $150,000 in the current fiscal budget for grants ranging from $10,000 and up. Criteria for applying businesses are: create at least 5 full-time traded sector jobs. For approved applications meeting the criteria of 5 or more jobs with wages above the county average of $34,039, the applicant may request up to $2,000 per job. Request maximum per grant is $50,000 unless they meet provisions of an extraordinary project. For jobs paying less than the average wage, the request can be up to $1,000 per job. Jackson County formed its Economic Action Initiative to develop and communicate its commitment towards economic recovery. These activities are designed to help both established and emerging businesses with the tools needed for success. Jackson County developed several programs as part of the EAI, including the grant program, a quick response team to engage interested businesses, a website for businesses at www.jacksoncounty.org/EAI, an enhanced commitment to So Ready, and a $50,000 investment in the Sustainable Valley Initiative.
You know, it really is terrific to see, and will we be seeing more of that in the future? Is that first of more to come?
Yeah, we set aside $150,000 for this program, and this is going to be $26,000 of it. So
for this physical year, and talking to the folks from So Ready who are administering this vetting, as we heard Alex talk about earlier, does the vetting process for us. But in talking to those folks, they have 5 or 6 other folks in the businesses in the pipeline that will be getting to us very soon. We're anxious to see them and take a look at them.
Yeah.
We're really excited about this.
Yeah.
All about job growth.
And, you know, I want to say this isn't a giveaway. I mean, they really investigate these companies. This isn't a fellow that comes in and wants to make a buggy whip factory or an avocado burger stand. I mean, this company, you know, Core has a good, solid plan. They've been in business for a while, and they just want to expand, and they need a little help to expand. So we have a lot of confidence in them. You know, in my own business, when I was in private business, I could maybe just give it to the avocado burger guy, but this is the public's money, and so we watch that a little bit better than we probably watch our own.
Yeah, yeah. All right, we've got 4 nights till Christmas. Besides hand warmers and earmuffs for the next time we do a show in here, what would you like for Christmas? You mind if I throw that out to you? Dub, as Don's been calling you all night, can I ask you?
What I like for Christmas?
Yeah.
Oh, I'd dearly love to see my grandson and have all my children home, but I'll only get one of them home, and I won't get to see my grandson. So for Christmas, that's...
All right, well, sometime soon then, hopefully.
Hope so.
All right.
Well, I just want all of our citizens to have a Merry Christmas, you know, and a happy holidays. You know, I wish we had more people put to work, but we're working on that, and hope it's a good holiday for everyone.
Yeah, yeah.
And that is such a tough question because you want to answer personally, but you want to answer it, you know, in a more global. And I appreciate John's
I feel so
response.
selfish after listening to
John.
John.
Yeah, right. But health for my family. Prosperity in the right sense of the word, and obviously we want to think about our citizens. And I would love it to see if as our troops coming home, that's going to be cool. Many of them will be the first Christmas home in a year or two. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Very good. I'd love to see the faces on their kids when those men and women come home.
Well, I do want a dirt bike and a BB gun, too.
Okay, I just want to make sure that you were human.
Yeah, you'll shoot your eye out, John. You can't get a baby.
And BB gun.
I was gonna.
You heard it here.
I want an iPad. So.
Do you?
Yeah.
Really? That's
No.
an iPad.
Okay.
Yeah. Really?
It doesn't sound like you're going to purchase it. Yeah, good luck with that. All right. Thank you guys for joining us, and happy holidays
Thank
to
you,
you.
Tom.
And
Merry
it's been a
Christmas,
great
happy
year.
holidays
Thank you.
to you and your family.
All right, and happy holidays to everyone out there. Our thanks to the commissioners for joining us, and our thanks to the students here at SOU for running a great show, and Rogue Valley Television as well.
Merry Christmas.
That's going to do it for us, and happy holidays and good night.